and welcome to the 200th episode of Harry's Poetry Hour. Yay! Harry, over to you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you and the Creative Chaos team. Hi, Corinne.
Hi.
Ruthie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. To have a poetry show in the motion picture country home is truly amazing. I will always be grateful to Jennifer Clymer, Director, MPTF Studios, who encouraged me to do the poetry show in March 2020, and Bob Beecher, CEO, President, MPTF, for their love and support of the show and their participation in it. Bob, erudite in poetry, has initiated and appeared on many of the shows. It's always an honor when Bob comes on the show. Jennifer has read the poetry of others and also one of her own poems. In addition, she has sung on the program. I love her singing. As a director, she is brilliant and protective. The rewarding part is having the wonderful actors, some in their mid-90s, and singers who are MPTF residents, Corinne Conley, Helen Richmond, Kay Weissman, the late Tony Sawyer, Ruth Elliott, John Towie, Garen Berry participate. They immerse themselves in the poems and bring them to life. Thanks to Courtney Bailey and her daughter for their splendid readings. Thanks to Sharon Seifert for her superb reading. I'm also grateful to the MPTF Studios Creative Chaos crew and staff, Jennifer Clymer, Director, and Jennifer Biederman, Jennifer Esquivel, Michael Caiozzo, Cackley, Allegra Leedom, Jeff Mercer, Marijane Miller, Marcus Murrietta, Jody Schoffner, Joel Schroeder, and Paige Thompson, who give the Poetry Hour its outstanding production values. I am deeply grateful to the many superlative poets from outside MPTF, including D.A. Powell, Carol Muskie Dukes, Phoebe McAdams, James Cushing, Beth Ruscio, Bill Moore, Paul Vangelisi, who have been on the show. Finally, but not lastly, but not the least, shall we say, thanks also to Orion May Ayapana, Andrew Wald, Beth Ruscio, Phoebe McAdams, Elena Corinna Byrne, Ed Friedman for their help and support. Thanks to all of you who watch this show. We are all co-creators of this show, so thank you all very much.
Harry, if I can interject one thing, and I take full responsibility for not mentioning this to Harry earlier. One of the names that didn't make it onto the list is Amy Wiesneck. Yes. And Amy was very helpful early on. The design for the intro and everything, that's Amy's. So, yeah.
Today we are reading from Natalie Diaz's When My Brother Was an Aztec. The readers are Corinne Conley, Kay Weissman, Ruth Elliott. Natalie Diaz, who was born on September 4, 1978 in the Fort Mojave Indian Village in Needles, California. She received her BA and MFA from Old Dominion University. She is a Mojave. When My Brother Was an Aztec, her debut collection won the American Book Award in 2013. When My Brother Was an Aztec by Natalie Diaz, 2012, is a lyrical, intoxicating, passionate, empathetic, transfixing story of family ancestry, love, and her struggle with her brother's addiction to crystal meth. The magnificent readers, in order of their appearance, are Corinne Conley, Kay Weissman, Ruth Elliott. Here's Corinne Conley.
When my brother was an Aztec, he lived in our basement and sacrificed my parents every morning. It was awful, unforgivable, but they kept coming back for more. They loved him, was all they could say. It started with him stumbling along La Avenida de los Muertos. My parents walking behind like effigies in a procession he might burn to the ground at any moment. They didn't know what to do, except to be there to pick him up when he died. They forgot who was dying, who was already dead. My brother quit wearing shirts when a carnival of dirty-breasted women made them their leader, following him up and down the stairs. They were acrobats, moving, twitching like snakes. They fed him crushed diamonds and fire. He gobbled the gifts. My parents begged him to pluck their eyes out. He thought he was Huitzilopochtli, a god, half man, half hummingbird. My parents at his feet wrecked honeysuckles. He lowered his sword-like mouth, gorged on them, draining color until their eyebrows whitened. My brother shattered and quartered them before his basement festivals, waved their shaking hearts in his fists, while flea-ridden dogs ran up and down the steps, licking their asses, turning tricks. Neighbors were amazed. My parents' hearts kept growing back. It said a lot about my parents, or parents' hearts. My brother flung them into cenotes, dropped them from cliffs, punched holes into their skulls like useless jars or vases, broke them to pieces and fed them to gods, ruling the ratty crotches of street fair whores with popped faces, spreading their thighs in flop houses with no electricity. He slept in filthy clothes, smelling of rotten peaches and matches, fell in love with the sparkling spoonfuls the carnival dog women fed him. My parents lost their appetites for food, for sons, like all bad kings. My brother wore a crown, a green baseball cap turned backwards with a Mexican flag embroidered on it. When he wore it in the front yard, which he treated like his personal Zocalo, all his realm knew he had the power that day, had all the jewels a king could eat or smoke or shoot. The slave girls came to the fence and ate out of his hands. He fed them maize through the chain links. My parents watched from the window, crying over their house turned zoo, their son, who was now a rusted cage. The Aztec held a court in a salt cedar grove across the street, where peacocks lived. My parents crossed fingers so he'd never come back, lit novena candles so he would. He always came home with turquoise and jade feathers and stinking of peacock shit. My parents gathered what he'd left of their bodies, trying to stand without legs, trying to defend his blows with missing arms, searching for their fingers to pray, to climb out of whatever dark belly my brother, the Aztec, their son, had fed them to. Abecedarian, requiring further examination of Anglican seraphim subjugation of a wild Indian reservation. Angels don't come to the reservation. Bats, maybe, or owls, boxy, mottled things. Coyotes, too. They all mean the same thing, death. And death eats angels, I guess, because I haven't seen an angel fly through this valley ever. Gabriel? Never heard of him. Know a guy named Gabe, though. He came through here one powwow and stayed. Typical Indian. Sure, he had wings, jailbird that he was. He flies around in stolen cars. Wherever he stops, kids grow like gourds from women's bellies. Like I said, no Indian I ever heard of has ever been or seen an angel. Oh, maybe in a Christmas pageant or something. Nazarene Church holds one every December, organized by Pastor John's wife. It's no wonder Pastor John's son is the angel. Everyone knows angels are white. Quit bothering with angels, I say. They're no good for Indians. Remember what happened last time some white god came floating across the ocean? Truth is, there may be angels, but if there are angels up there living on clouds or sitting on thrones across the sea, wearing velvet robes and golden rings, drinking whiskey from silver cups, we're better off if they stay rich and fat and ugly and exactly where they are in their own distant heavens. You better hope you never see angels on the res. If you do, they'll be marching you off to Zion or Oklahoma or some other hell they've mapped out for us. Tortilla smoke, a genesis. In the beginning, light was shaved from its cob. White kernels divided from dark ones, put to the pestle until each sparked like a star. By nightfall, tortillas sprang up from the dust, billowed like a fleet of prairie schooners sailing a flat black sky. Moons, hot white, on the blue flannel stove of the earth. And they were good. Some tortillas wandered the dry ground like bright tribes. Others settled through the flowery ceiling, el cielo de mis sueños, hovering above our tents, over our beds, floppy white frisbees, spinning, whirling, like Project merry-go-rounds. They were fruitful and multiplied, subduing all the beasts, eye teeth, and bellies of the world. How we prayed to the tortilla god to roll us up like burritos, tight and fat, como poros, to hold us in his lips, to be ignited, lit up luminous with Holy Spirit, dancing on the edge of a table, grooving all up and down the gold piping of the green robe of San Pellegrino, the saint who keeps the black spots away. To toke and betoken, carried up, away in tortilla smoke, up to the steeple where the angels and our grandpas live. Porque nuestras madres nos dijeron que viven allí. High to the top, that is the bottom, the side, the space between, back to the end, that is the beginning. A giant ball of masa, rolling down, riding hard the arc of earth, gathering rocks, sighs, lemon trees, Joshua trees, creosotes, sighs, spray-painted blue bicycles rusting in gardens, hunched, bow-legged grandpas in white undershirts that cover cancers, whittling their organs like thorns and thistles, like dark eyes wide open, like sin, leaving behind bits and pieces of finger sticky dough, grandma's mistake for communion. Y toman la hostia. It clings to their ribs like gum they swallowed in the first grade. The grandmas return from misa with full to the brim estomagos and overflowing souls. To empty homes, they tie on their aprons. Between their palms, they sculpt and caress, stroke and press dozens and dozens of tortillas, stack them from basement to attic, from wall to wall, crowding closets, jamming drawers, filling cupboards, and el vacío. At night, they kiss ceramic statues of Virgin Marys, roll rosary beads between their index fingers and thumbs, weep prettier tears than holy water. Sana sana colita de rana, sino sanas ahora, sanarás mañana. When they wake, they realize frogs haven't had tails in ages. They hope gravity doesn't last long, and they wait. Y esperan, y esperamos, to be carried up, anywhere, on round, white, magic carpets and tortilla smoke. Reservation Mary. Mary Lambert was born at the Indian Hospital on the res. She never missed a three-pointer in the first 13 years of her life. She started smoking pot in 7th grade, still never missed a three-pointer, but eventually missed most of her freshman classes and finally dropped out of school. A year or so later, a smooth-faced Mojave who had a jump shot smoother than a silver can of commodity shortening and soared for rebounds like he was made of red-tailed hawk feathers, visited her res for a money tournament. His team won the money, and he won MVI, Most Valuable Indian. Afterward, at the little corner bar on the corner of Indian Route 1, where the only people not allowed to drink were dialysis patients, he told Mary she was his favorite, his first string, that he dropped all those buckets just for her. He spent his entire cut of the tournament winnings on her wild turkey and cokes, told her he was going to stay the night with her, even though it was already morning when they stumbled from the bar. He stayed and stayed and stayed, then left. Her heart felt pierced with spears and arrows. Her belly swelled round as an August melon. That was a lifetime ago. Now she's 17. She kept the baby and the weight and sells famous fry bread and breakfast burritos at tribal entities on paydays. Tortillas, round and chewy as communion wafers, embracing Kama cheese and government potatoes, delivered in tinfoil from the trunk of an old brown Buick with a cracked windshield and a pair of baby Jordan shoes hanging from the rear view mirror. Her sleeping brown baby tied tightly into a cradle board in the back seat. Just the other day at a party on First Beach, someone asked if she still had that three-point touch, if she wished she still played ball, and she answered that she wished a lot of things. But what she wished for most at that minute was that she could turn the entire Colorado River into E&J Ripple She went on a beer run instead. And as she made her way over the bumpy back roads along the river, that smooth-faced baby in the back seat cried out for something.
Other small thundering. We are born with spinning coins in place of eyes, paid in full to ferry Karen's narrow skiffs. We, red-clothed captains helming dizzy in fits of sleep, tied to the masts, not to be driven mad by the caroling of thirsty children, or the symphony of dogs slaking hunger by licking our rib cages like xylophones. Our medicine bags are anchored with buffalo nickels, sleek skulls etched by Gatlings. How we plow and furrow the murky sticks, lovingly digging with smooth, dark oars like they are grandmother's missing legs. A familiar throb of kneecap, shin, ankle, foot, promising to carry us home. A gunny sack full of tigers wrestles in our chests. They pace, stalking our hearts, building a jail with their stripes. Each tail a fuse, each eye a cinder. Chest translates to bomb. Bomb is a song, the drum's shame-hollowed lament. Burlap is no place for prayers or hands. The reservation is no place for a jungle. But our stomachs growl. Something within us there lies, a king. And when we find him, the snow-dim prairies are garlanded with children. My people fancy dance circles around pyres, but do not celebrate the bodies. Small, open, red as hollyhocks. Some crawled until they came undone, petal by petal, stripping the white field crimson. Others lay where they first fell, enamored by the warmth of a blanket of blood. My dress is bluer than the sky weeping bones, so this is the way to build a flag with a pretty little Springfield 45 caliber rifle. So this is the way to sew wounds with a hot little howitzer. Yesterday is much closer than today. A black bayonet carried between the shoulder blades like an itch in the butt of a wing. We've mesmerized the way a hot kiss can wreck a mouth. Streetlights glow. Neon gourds, electric dandelions blow them out. With hard for orange buttes and purple crayons, canyons, moon-hoofed horses with manes made from wars. Other small thunderings. The facts of art. This is an epigraph, and it reads, woven plaque basket with sunflower design, Hopi, Arizona, before 1935, from an American Indian basketry exhibit in Portsmouth, Virginia. The Arizona highway sailed across the desert, a gray battleship drawing a black wake, halting at the foot of the orange mesa, unwilling to go around. Hopi men and women, brown and small and clay-like, peered down from their tabletops at yellow tractors, water trucks, and white men blistered with sun, red as fire ants, towing sunscreen-slathered wives in glinting Airstream trailers in caravans behind them. Elders knew these BIA roads were bad medicine. knew too that young men listened less and less, and these young Hopi men needed work, hence set aside their tools, blocks of cottonwood root and half-finished kashari, the clown, Katsinis, and then signed on with the Department of Transportation. They were hired to stab drills deep into the earth's thick red flesh on First Mesa, drive giant sparking blades across the mesa's faces, run the drill bits so deep they smoked, bearding all the Hopi men in white. Bad spirits, said the elders. The blades caught fire, burned out. Mashaw is angry, the elders said. New blades were flown in by helicopter, while elders dreamed their arms and legs had been cleaved off and their torsos were flung. Nobody noticed at first, not the white workers, not the Indian workers, but in the mounds of dismantled mesa, among the clods and piles of sand, lay the small gray bowls of baby skulls. Not until they climbed to the bottom did they see the silvered bones glinting from the freshly sliced dirt and rock, a mausoleum mosaic, a sick tapestry, the tiny remains roused from death's dusty cradle, cut in half, cracked, wrapped in time-tattooed scraps of blankets. Let's call it a day, the white foreman said. And that night, all the Indian workers got sad drunk, got sick, while elders sank to their kivas in prayers. Next morning, as dawn festered on the horizon, state workers scaled the mesas, knocked at the doors of pueblos that had them, hollered into those without them, demanding that Hopi men come back to work, and then begging them, then buying them whiskey, begging again, finally sending their white wives up the dangerous trail etched into the steep sides to buy baskets from Hopi wives and grandmothers as a sign of treaty. When that didn't work, the state workers called the Indians lazy, send their sun hat-wearing wives back up to buy more baskets, Katsinas too, then called the Hopis good for nothing before begging them back once more. We'll try again in the morning, the foreman said, but the Indian workers never returned. The BIAs and DOT's call to work went unanswered as the fevered Hopis stayed huddled inside. The small bones, half buried in the crevices of mesa in the once holy darkness of silent earth and always night, smiled or sighed beneath the moonlight, while white women in Airstream trailers wrote letters home, praising their husbands' patience, describing the lazy savages, such squalor in their stone and plaster homes, cobs of corn stacked floor to ceiling against crumbling walls, their devilish ceremonies and the barbaric way they buried their babies. Oh, and those beautiful, beautiful baskets. My brother at 3 a.m. He sat cross-legged, weeping on the steps when Mom unlocked and opened the front door. Oh God, he said. Oh God, he wants to kill me, Mom. When Mom unlocked and opened the front door at 3 a.m., she was in her nightgown. Dad was asleep. He wants to kill me, he told her, looking over his shoulder. 3 a.m. and in her nightgown. Dad asleep. What's going on? She asked. Who wants to kill you? He looked over his shoulder. The devil does. Look at him over there. She asked, what are you on? Who wants to kill you? The sky wasn't black or blue, but the green of a dying night. The devil! Look at him over there. He pointed to the corner house. The sky wasn't black or blue, but the dying green of night. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. My brother pointed to the corner house. His lips flickered with sores. Stars had closed their eyes or sheathed their knives. Oh God, I can see the tail, he said. Oh God, look. Mom winced at the sores on his lips. It's sticking out from behind the house. Oh God, see the tail, he said. Look at the goddamn tail. He sat cross-legged, weeping on the front steps. Mom finally saw it. A hellish vision, my brother. Oh God, oh God, she said. As a consequence of my brother stealing all the light bulbs, this is my last one. My parents lived without light, groping, never reading, never saying, you are lovely. A broken Borgia and a gouged St. Lucia, hand in hand, shuffling from the kitchen linoleum to the living room rug. My father's pants are wobbling silhouettes. My mother is bluer than her nightgown. One says rosaries to become a candle. The other tries hard to be a Coleman fishing lantern on the bank of a river 20 years away, watching a boy he loves stab a hook through a worm. My parents eat matches like there's no tomorrow. But just because they choke on today doesn't mean they aren't proactive. They're building a funeral pyre out of their house. It's hard to visit. We are always digging each other out from intimate sort of rubble. I recognize some things. My brother's high school football helmet, first communion pin, ceramic handprint, green plastic army men with noses and arms chopped off, a handheld propane torch. So much more has been disguised by being dismantled and fiendishly reassembled at 2 a.m. Lives, guitar amps, the electric Virgin Mary picture with a corona that changes color, deals with gods, the Electrolux canister vac. Mom and Dad snap matchsticks between their tender teeth. And I taste a green clock at the back of my throat. The ticking is cold or sour or really a pickaxe. Worry tastes so dirty when it's spread out like a banquet. My brother, the myrrh eater, lost, fucked up magus. He followed the wrong star, licking his sequined lips, which can't shine in the shade of this growing pyre. My dad sips gasoline through a green garden hose, siphons it from his own work truck so my brother can't steal it. My mom tries to dress the place up. Riddle doilies, The burning heart Jesus with eyes that used to follow us around the room until someone plucked out each bright circle. And now my fingers slip down into the slick holes in Jesus's face. My mom can't wash the windows because my brother ate them. She knots ribbons on the wood stack, hangs blackened spoons like wind chimes, and says, "What can you expect from a pyre but a pyre?" When I visit, I hate searching for the door. Usually my brother's boot print on my dad's ribs. Once it was a hole in my mom's chest that changed her into a sad guitar for 3 years. These are more like exits than doors. They are difficult to get through. The walls have been mortared with grief, dark enough to make blindness a gift. We don't have to look each other in the eyes. It's crazy how loud it is inside a funeral pyre. We don't talk much. We can't hear each other over so much stumbling. And when I do hear, the only thing my mom says is, "How much longer?" I prefer that to what she wrote in fluorescent paint on the ceiling last weekend. What does he do with the light bulbs? We don't talk about crystal meth in my parents' house, particularly since it's been converted into a funeral pyre. My dad quit speaking long ago. He only sings these days, not with words, rather with small strikes and sparks. These quick flashes of fire that seem to satisfy my mother's questions.
This is titled Formication, the sensation of insects or snakes running over or into the skin. 1, AKA speed bumps. In the middle of Highway 95, I stopped my car while a dark cloud of tarantulas migrated out of the desert, pulling themselves across the road. An ebony lake of legs, black vessels, launched to retrieve something beautiful. They climbed the jagged wash in such a way that I wondered if we were all living in the wrong direction. Maybe sideways is up, and fucked up is up, and down is hanging over all our heads. Then a semi passed me on the left. I can still hear the crunch. I can feel the ones that kept crawling over the others, their brothers and sisters, busted scabs in the road. 2, AKA crank bugs. Don't tell my brother, even though he's been asking, scratching for clues, picking at the truth. Don't tell him there really are things skittering, creeping across his inner arms, moving and hot, sweating. We are the exodus. These glowing torches, wounds that won't let us go home. 3, AKA delusional parasitosis. Dope is what my dad calls it. He never says meth. And the dope always has my brother. It's that dope my dad sighs. That dope's got him. My dad once took us to the railroad tracks, gave each one of us 9 kids a penny to set on the rusted rails. My brother wanted $1, not a penny. Because it's hard to turn a firstborn son away, he got it, shoved it down into his pocket, walked away from us. We placed our pennies along the rails that he balanced on. His heels squeaked against the metal, arms stretched out on each side. I knew then that he'd do it. He'd crucify himself one day, just like that day. Arms nailed to a horizon of salt cedars, date palms, the purple mountains. Behind him, sharp as needles. 4, AKA sensation on the nerve endings. When my brother steals my dad's truck, my dad walks through town with the hobos and train hoppers, stray dogs, hungry accordions, the dirty-faced and gray-heeled girls who flock outside our gate like pigeons after my brother's crumbs. On these days, my dad drags his feet across my brother's skin. Just to remind him, my dad says, that I am old, I am tired, I am his father. 5, AKA meth sores. We are too weak to say the word intervention. When my brother nods off, I write it on his arms and face in cursive with invisible ink. No one wants to embarrass him. You shouldn't embarrass him, my mom says. Understand he's a grown man. He won't stand there while you embarrass him. But I'm embarrassed. I can't understand. Why are we all just standing here while he tears the temple to pieces? I watch her eat the apple. She twirls it in her left hand, a small red merry-go-round. According to the white oval sticker, she holds apple number 4016. I've read in some book or other of 4,015 fruits she held before this one, each equally dizzied by the heat in the tips of her fingers. She twists the stem, pulls it like the pin of a grenade, and I just know somewhere someone is sitting alone on a porch, bruised, opened up to their wet white ribs, riddled by her teeth. Lucky. With her right hand, she lifts the sticker from the skin. Now the apple is more naked than any apple has been since two bodies first touched the leaves of ache in the garden. Maybe her apple is Macintosh, maybe Red Delicious. I only know it is the color of something I dreamed, something I gave to her after being away for 10,000 nights. The apple pulses like a red bird in her hand. She is setting the red bird free, but the red bird will not go, so she pulls it to her face as if to tell it a secret. She bites, cleaving away a red wing. The red bird sings, yes, she bites the apple, and there is music, a branch breaking, a ship undone by the shore, a knife making love to a wound, the sweet scrape of a match lighting the lamp of her mouth. This blue world has never needed a woman to eat an apple so badly, to destroy an apple, to make the apple bone, and she does it. I watch her eat the apple, carve it to the core, and set it wobbling on the table. A broken bell I beg to wrap my red skin around until there is no apple. There is only this woman who is a city of apples. There is only me licking the juice from the streets of her palm. If there is a God of fruit or things devoured, and this is all it takes to be beautiful, then God, please, let her eat another apple tomorrow. Toward the amaranth gates of war or love. Tonight, the city is glimmered. What's left of an August monsoon is heat and wet. Beyond the open window, the street lamp is a honey-skirted hive. I could split with my hand. My palm is a pool of light. On the television screen, bombs like silvery bells toll above blurred horizon. All I know of war is win. What is a wall, if not a thing to be pressed against? What is a bedroom, if not an epicenter of pillage? And what can I do with 100 houses, but abandon them as spent shells of desire? The buzz of blue burning ozone molecules, a hypothalamus of cavalry trumpets, call me to something. You, so willing to be crushed. I feel like I might die. I lean over, kiss you sitting on the sofa, and pretend we are lying there, stretched across that debris-dazzled desert. The only affliction is your mouth. The single ache is that I cannot crawl inside you. The explosions are for us. The war is nothing more than a reminder to go to mass. The tolling, your sighing, the bombs, a carnival of bodies, touch, all the things we want to taste. An apple wedge soaked in vinegar, a blood orange swelling like a breast, those beggars of teeth. I want you like that, enough to gnash you into a silence made from pieces of silver. Outside, cars rush the slick streets. My mouth is on your thigh. I would die to tear just this piece of you away, to empty your bright dress onto the floor, as the bomb's long, shadowy legs march me toward the amaranth gates of the sea. The beauty of a busted fruit. When we were children, we traced our knees, skins, and elbows for the slightest hint of wound, searching them for any sad, red-blue scab, marking us, both victim and survivor. All this before we knew that some wounds can't heal, before we knew the jagged scars of great-grandmother's amputated legs, the way a rock can split a man's head open to its red syrup like a watermelon, the way a brother can pick at his skin for snakes and spiders only he can see. Maybe you have grown out of yours. Maybe you no longer haul those wounds with you onto every bus, through the side streets of a new town. Maybe you have never set them rocking in the lamplight, on a nightstand beside a stranger's bed, carrying your hurts like two cracked pomegranates, because you haven't learned to see the beauty of a busted fruit, the bright stain it will leave on your lips, the way it will make people want to kiss you.
Why don't Kay and Corinne, why don't you come on the screen? Thank you all for your poignant, luminous, loving reading of this tender and tragic and extraordinary poetry of Natalie Diaz. I just love all your readings. Why don't we each take a minute or two and go around in the order that we came on, Corinne, Kay, and Ruth, and say something if you like about the poetry or the poet.
Well, I guess it was a good way for me to begin with my computer not working and not knowing what to do about it and how to do, because it kind of was indicative of what we were reading. I mean, about living on a reservation and the life there. So much that Natalie Diaz that talks about and tries it, and pictures, I was going to say explains, I wouldn't say explains, just pictures. And you can only get the feeling, I think, of despair and hopelessness. But she says it also eloquently. It's wonderful that that our Native people have such a wonderful poetic person describing their situation. And I certainly felt it today. You certainly feel it when you read her. It's deeply emotional. I'm sure we all felt that way.
Ready for me?
Yes, I am.
Well, of course, I always agree with what Corinne said, especially this time. And I'm sure I'll agree with Ruthie too. These words just jumped out at me. And I was surprised at reading it that I got a little bit more emotional than I would have liked to, because they're heartbreaking. And the words do jump out. And I must say, they made me a little ashamed of being, a perpetrator or representing, being, who we are, and also not knowing more about their plight and with what the Indian nation has gone through. And I just, it was breathtaking. I thought I just loved all the readings to the other two ladies, and very grateful to you, Harry, to have, given me the opportunity of reading this that I wouldn't have had the opportunity without being here and having you let me read it. So thank you.
Ruthie?
Gosh, it is such a, as Corinne said, such a poignant piece of work. She just, tears your heart out with what drugs and mental illness can do to a family, and how much it hurts other people. And that's one of the things. It's like some people are only good for being a bad example, So, but even in that, in the bad example, you see how she beheld the beauty that exists in everything, and just how it became, I guess, so sullied and dirtied by the anguish that having a brother that basically was captured by the drugs and whatever demonic spirits that had tormented him, and the fact that everybody felt so helpless and not knowing what to do about it. Mm-hmm. It's just, the story has probably been repeated a million times in families with children that have problems. And yet, how beautifully she put it, so that other people don't feel alone who might have a relative with a mental illness, So it's a beautiful piece of work.
Well, in terms of what you said, Ruthie, those last couple lines you read, to see the beauty of a busted fruit, the bright stain it will leave on your lips, the way it will make people want to kiss you, the bruises. And so thank you all. I love all your readings. I'm so grateful to you. We all co-create this program. So may we continue, and even whatever we go through in our lives, this is always a sacred place for me. So thank you. And to make an announcement for next Tuesday, we have two wonderful poets with us, Moria Simon and Kim Dower. And thank you once again to our wonderful director, Jennifer Clymer.
We are ending this show by thanking Harry. He does a tremendous amount of work. He has done outreach to people across the globe. He has a dedicated following, and the celebration of the spoken word. I read something recently that was a profile of Harry, and he articulated so well in this interview that to read a poem silently is one thing, but to give life to those words, to speak them, to hear the music of them is a very different thing. And you have coordinated 200 hour-long episodes of the celebration of that language and that art. Thank you.
Thank you.